Welcome to the Pastor's Corner, a show that invites you to step into a sacred space where wisdom meets compassion, where faith intertwines with action, and where hearts are stirred and lives are transformed. Whether you find comfort in the pews of a church, the quiet corners of your home, or the bustling streets of your city, the Pastor's Corner is a place where you can find inspiration, encouragement, and a renewed sense of purpose. Welcome to the Pastor's Corner, where the transformative power of faith awaits you. Welcome to the Pastor's Corner. Today we have a segment for you that I believe is going to be a blessing for you and for those who are viewing. Listen, everybody got to have a corner. Here at the Pastor Corner, we come together, we join together every Wednesday at 12 o'clock to get in the huddle, to see what we can say to the team. So when we go out back into the world, we can make a difference for Christ. So get everybody you know, get them in the corner, bring them into the huddle so they can hear what is going on at the Pastor's Corner on today. Listen, today, the gentleman I have on the Pastor's Corner with us, he's a veteran. He's a recovery specialist at Dallas County Court Services. I believe his story will be a blessing to you, a blessing to your family. And if you got any children, get them online as well to hear. I'm happy today to bring to the Pastor's Corner the one and only Mr. Curtis Rose. Welcome to the Pastor's Corner, Mr. Rose. How you doing today?
Glad to be here, Pastor. Thank you for inviting me.
Listen, you're the second person that we've sat down and talked with, and I'm happy to have you here. Tell me what's going on with you. How's it been at the beginning of the year?
Well, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to still be above ground. You know, it's been a blessing to, to be a productive member of society today. Being that, my journey took me through so many negative things in my past, to be a child of God, and living the life I'm living today is truly a gift, and I'm truly grateful for it. So I'm truly glad to be here and willing, to share today on the Pastor's Corner.
Listen, your life is such a testimony. When I was introducing you and to tell the people you are a recovery specialist, that is a heavy title to carry. Say, I'm a specialist at recovering, which means you have to have a story behind that. I heard your story, and one thing you've said to me that sticks out, and I think the people need to hear, is about the power God gives us to live. Can you say something about your story and the power that God gives us to live?
Yeah, right, Pastor. For a long, long time, Pastor, I was in active addiction, and the thing is that I tried to fix my own problems, and little did I know, that's the thing that kept me stuck in the belly of the beast for so long, because I was the one. I figured I had the power to do something about my issues, when in actuality, I did not.
Wow.
The thing was, the lack of power was mighty low. And I had to find power I had to find a power by which I could live, and that power had to be greater than myself. And during my last run, I asked God, why me? I'm not a bad fellow. Why I keep struggling? Why I keep falling short? In a small, quiet voice came to me and said, Curtis, you hadn't tried me.
You haven't tried.
Tried me. That was May the 3rd, 2008. May the 3rd, 2008. Now, it hadn't been necessary for me to use, drink, or drug from that day to this one. So 16 years later, I've been depending on my higher power. God, Jesus Christ, man. You know what I'm saying?
You said something, if I can. You said something about the Spirit said, you haven't tried me.
Right.
You haven't tried me. And you are a believer.
Right.
And the Spirit says to you, you haven't tried me.
Right.
I don't think that story is unique. When I say unique in the sense that a lot of people call themselves believers and think they're trying God.
Right.
But in actuality, they're not trying God. So how do you think you got to that point where you knew the Spirit was saying to you, you haven't tried me, but yet you was a believer, and God said, yeah, you're a believer, but you haven't tried me?
Thing was, Pastor, that I was raised in the church. I was raised in the church as a child, man. All my folk were believers. The thing was, I had done so much stuff so much negative stuff, so much wrong. I had condemned myself. I really didn't think I was worthy of God's love. I just didn't think God would do for me what he had done for all these other good church folk. You know what I'm saying?
Good church folk.
That's right, good church folk. And, and low self-esteem, low self-worth. Addiction encompasses so many negative thoughts about yourself and feelings about yourself. And then, to go along, coupled with that, you got people that's telling you, folks who love you, who you care about what they think about you, tell you the same thing. You'll never amount to nothing.
These are believers, though.
Yeah. You'll never be no good.
Good church folks.
And you've heard this for so long in your life that, how could God love a wretch like me? You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I was stuck in that mode for so long, man. And I couldn't, I was trying to dig my way out by my lonesome. I walked away from the church because I didn't think it was working for me.
Wow.
And when I told you on that last run, when I really got sincere. See, when we sincerely took such a position.
Oh,
okay. I was out of position for so long. I was out of position.
Right.
I was trying to do God's job for it.
Wow.
Wow. He the father, I'm the child. So I had to get in position.
You change position. And so often as believers, we try to tell the father what to do and we are the child.
Right.
Your story is unique in that Paul was preaching in the book of Acts, and he came to the city, and the Bible says he preached all night long. He kept preaching all night long. And there was a young man who was sitting in the window, fell asleep while he was preaching. He was among good church folks.
Yeah.
Good church folks. And fell out the window and broke his neck while he was in the church. We have to be very vigilant to keep our eyes on those who are in the church, because people can be in the church hurting, bleeding, and we can get caught up just because they show up, assuming everything is okay. But I heard one preacher say, you come to church because you need the doctor. So you was in the church. What would you say to people who's in the church right now, who you can identify? You were there. You were bleeding. You were hurting, but nobody recognized you. Matter of fact, the good church folks told you, you ain't going to be in the thing. You can't get better.
Right.
How do you reconcile? How do you deal with that? If somebody who's watching us right now, say I'm in the church and the church don't care about me, don't see about me, what would you encourage that person to do?
Well, the thing is that they were kind of judgmental. I heard folk in the church judge other people who came into the church with problems of addiction, mental illness, stuff like that. Look at them, they're crazy as self. They'll never amount to nothing. All they want to do is do drugs. Little they know them people were suffering with a mental illness, a sickness, rather than a moral issue. What they're trying to do, they're trying to get well rather than trying to be a better people.
Right.
So don't be judgmental. Don't judge people. So the church is here to help to heal our community. To be the place where we turn to when we don't have anywhere else to turn. That's what a church family's for. And so and today, early on, I was really ashamed. I was afraid. I didn't want folks to know because I was afraid of being judged.
Wow.
So, but it gets to a point in my recovery when God steps in and flip that thing and turn you around, you don't care no more.
And when God steps in.
And so that's why I'm so willing to sit and tell my story, because to keep what I have, I really have to give it away.
Right.
I have to be willing to give it away and share on a regular basis. Share my experience, strength, and hope. That somebody else might receive.
Exactly. What makes your story, I believe, so unique? It is the Christian story. Romans 3:23 says we all have sinned. The church is a group of all people who have fallen. There's nobody inside the church who's greater than anybody, who's better than anybody. As a matter of fact, we all are recovering from being addicted to sin. We're recovering from being addicted to sin. So The devil does get in detail, wonder what type of sin. It doesn't matter. Addiction is addiction. And when God steps in, whatever addiction it is, when he steps in, he breaks it and he frees us. And I think the challenge for us in the church is to realize that we all, by the grace of God, we're not who we used to be. Paul says something interesting too in Romans chapter 7. He says, for what I will to do, I find myself not doing, but that what I hate. This is the apostle who is saved.
Right.
He's saying, I still got issues. I'm still recovering. We're always in the process of recovering. And to hear your story and people to hear your story that just because I have an issue, this shouldn't keep me from God. I'm a person who had an issue, not a moral issue. I got an addiction issue.
Right.
My addiction is the sin I like. Nothing wrong with God. It's the sin I got. And so God is always recovering and God is always taking us through them steps. And so I want to go back to this power to live, the power to live. The power to live means there are times that you may have wanted to give up. Can you talk about that?
Well, I was in and out. I was that individual that I would get into a 12-step program, go to inpatient treatment, and I just didn't think. I came to the realization that, hey, I'm gonna die dealing with this illness, this sickness, this weakness, Pastor. And the thing is that I really gave up on Christ. I gave up on God. Like I said before, I really ain't think God would do for me because I was in and out so much. I was dealing with addiction for the first treatment center I went to, Pastor. I went to back in 1990.
Wow.
1990. That's the first time I got introduced to treatment and 12-step programs. And like I said, I was raised in the church. I was a baby in the church.
Wow.
Christmas programs and Easter programs and in church areas, vacation Bible school.
You there?
See, I was there, man. I went through all of that. You know what I'm saying? And sung in the choir, in the youth choir. Most of my early childhood, so I really didn't think God cared about me or he would do for me what he did for everybody else. A wretch like me, man, ain't no way God could love me, and I keep turning my back on him. I had an idea of a condemning God, fire and brimstone.
Judgmental.
Yeah, judgmental. If I ain't do this just right, I ain't do that just right, I was going to die in hell. You know what I'm saying? So that was my idea, and I grew with that idea in my head. It was the idea of my mother's and my father's, my grandfather's God, and it took me to go through all of the stuff that I went through.
Right.
And little did I know, he had placed purpose on my life.
Wow.
I had to go through all of that to get to where I was, man, to get to where I am today. So I just had to stay in the process.
Stay in the process,
Pastor. It's like, I was out of position for so long. And when on May the 3rd, 2008, when God told me, he said, well, Curtis, you never really tried me, And sincerely in my heart, I had never really tried God. It was based on my mother's God. It was based on my grandfather. It wasn't personal to me. And see, and that night,
right.
That night, it got personal to me. You know what I'm saying? So, I had to do some things though. I got into outpatient treatment program. I called them that Monday, that was a Saturday night, that Monday morning, I called them and said, hey, I need some treatment. I said, I got a job. I work in the evenings and I need treatment in the morning. They told me, no, well, we sorry, Mr. Rose. They said, we could probably get you in a couple of weeks. And I said, well, hey, I'm telling you right now, I want to use some drugs. I said, I ain't going to stop using. They said, well, Miss Rose, we sorry. We ain't got no slots open right now. We can't get you in until 2 weeks from now at the earliest. So the lady said, thank you. And I'm busy. I got to go. She hung up the phone and I called right back. I said, lady, please, I need some help. You know, I said, if I don't get some help today, you know, I know I'm going to use before the day over with. You know, she said, Mr. Rowe, I told this is going to be at least 2 weeks. Call me back in 2 weeks. She hung up on me again. I called right back. She hung up on me. I called right
Persistent.
back. I called her until she said, Mr. Rowe, will you please come on down here and talk to her? And I started off in treatment, man. I went to treatment from 8 to 12. At 2:30 in the evening, I went to work. I got off work and I went home. And on Sundays, I found me a church family. And I started going to church. I got into the good book, man. I got into the word.
Wow.
I was praying on a regular basis. You know, I started to acquire some clean time. You know, one day at a time. You know, I used to ask myself a question on a daily basis. You know, who's running the show today?
Wow.
You know, first thing in the morning, I put a sign on beside my bed, framed it, and as soon as I wake up, I look at that frame because I slept on one side all the time. So when I open my eyes, that frame would be there. And on the picture frame, it said, "Who's in charge today?"
Who's in charge today? I like that.
And it wasn't Curtis. You know what I'm saying? Because if Curtis was running the show, we was all in trouble.
All in trouble.
Thing was, God was in charge. You know, and so I learned how to follow direction, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, I really got involved in church, praying on a regular basis, got into that word, man. I hadn't looked back, Pastor. You know, doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. You know what I'm saying?
You said, God, try me. And I heard the steps you went through. Trying God, you were persistent in calling, asking for help.
Right.
Because oftentimes when we hear people say trying God, they think just miraculous God is going to stop it. You had a desire. You kept going after God through people. That God works through people at times.
Right.
He said, try me, and you had to reach out to somebody and kept telling them, I need help.
Right.
I need help. I need help. So there's nothing wrong with telling people that you need help. But not only that, you was on the schedule. You said, I need it in the morning time. When I first get up, I need the help. And I think that's our life for so many of us that we can't wait till nighttime to get the help. God, we need the help in the morning. And when we first get up, you looked at your picture every day. Who's in charge today?
Right.
And I need to know when I wake up in the morning who's in charge.
That's right.
But all of that tied back into you coming back. You said you found you a good church home.
Right.
All of that tied back together. You were raised in the church. Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go. When they're old, they will not depart from it. They'll come back to it. So even though you were in the church hurting, the church still was a part of you coming back to the church because those seeds were inside of you. If somebody was online today, listening to us and say, well, I've tried God, but it didn't work for me.
Right.
Because I thought when I prayed, it was supposed to happen instantly.
Right.
What would you say to the individual who said, I prayed, it didn't happen time I prayed? As a matter of fact, if you could look into the camera in front of you, what would you tell them?
Well, the thing is that no is an answer. You know, if I pray and I don't get exactly what I want, you know, it's like maybe that ain't meant for me right now. You know, and God, no is an answer. You know, if I don't get something that I ask for, I understand today that God's running the show. He's in charge of my life. He's in charge of everything around me. So that ain't meant for me at that time. You know, I got purpose on my life today. And my life was already, I understand that my life was already mapped out for me. You know, so he know exactly what's going to happen. He know where I'm heading. He know why I am today. You know, and all I got to do is stay in the fold, man. Is follow his direction. You know, continue to pray and trust God. And I'll be okay, Pastor.
Listen, I'm sure that's a blessing out to people. Stay in the fold. I like that. Stay in the fold. Stay in the fold. Don't give up. If you're trying God, stay in the fold.
That's right.
You know, just because it ain't happen instantly, that don't mean it's not going to happen.
Right.
It took time for us to get to where we were.
Right.
You know, it took time. If I gain weight, I didn't gain 20 pounds by eating 100 bun. Right?
That's right.
It was consecutive, eating it over and over and over and over again. So I shouldn't expect to lose the weight just by saying today I'm gonna skip one meal, right? So it is with anything we're dealing with in life. We try God. It took us time. Now, yes, sometimes God does it instantly. He does it instantly sometimes, but oftentimes it's a process.
That's right.
That God does it as we go. we get better. One morning we wake up, we push away from what we was bound by, and we feel good that day. And before long, we realize we can go 2 days without it. Right. And then we look up, we had 5 days. Now, it might have taken 6 months for us to get there, but we're getting better over time. We're getting better over time. And that's why I believe people have to be encouraged that always get better in the process. Always. Don't quit because you fell down. The Bible says a just man falls down 7 times. It don't matter how many times you fell down there. What matters is you keep getting up. Keep getting up, which says you want better. Because if you didn't want better, you wouldn't keep fighting. If you didn't want better, you would not keep fighting. And it's a fight. It's a fight that we always are in. And I just believe, and I thank God for your story, that you're a fighter. You're a fighter. Because you could either quit. You could either walk away and say, is it what it is? There's no hope for me. There's no help for me. But you stood in there and you fought. And your testimony is a witness to all believers. The Bible says that we overcome the devil, the dragon, by the word of our testimony and by the blood of the Lamb. Right. So people need to hear stories. They need to hear stories because there's somebody right now in a church somewhere, or who may have been a part of a church, who have a story, but they're ashamed of the story. They feel like they don't have help. And I encourage them to reach out to people. I don't put you on the spot, but can we give information about how ways they can find, if people have any kind of substance addiction, who they can reach out to have somebody to talk to or help somebody to get them on the right path? Because everybody can't help. I say that if you've never been through something, you really don't know what it feels like to be bound with whatever I'm struggling with. So what would you say to that person in regards to how to find ways to get help?
Well, we got several 12-step programs that's here in Selma. We got Selma AA that's in the basement of the courthouse that meets 3 times a week. You meet on Tuesdays, Thursdays at 6 at Tuesday and Thursday at 6 in the evening. On Sunday at 6 in the evening. And you got Getting Better, a Narcotics Anonymous recovery group that meets at a Restoration Church on Thursdays at 6:30. And we got another group called Second Chance Narcotics Anonymous that meets at Lutheran Church, the Lutheran Church over on Marie Foster. They meet at 6:30 on Wednesdays. So, hey, these are all open groups. And if anybody dealing with addiction or have a family member that's dealing with addiction, the doors are open. You're welcome to come in. You can call our office down at Dallas County Court Services. If you got someone that's dealing with addiction that needs help, call our office, 431-5556. Anytime, ask for Mr. Rose, and I'm willing to talk to you, or the individual that's suffering with addiction. Our doors are always open, and we're always willing to help. I'm sorry. But Pastor, I was that guy. You said something earlier about some people get it right away. Some people had a profound spiritual experience. They come in, they get on their knees and pray to God, and and God come right in.
Right in.
You know what I'm saying? And deliver those folks.
Instantly.
They'll never turn back.
Right.
But you got that individual like myself.
Right.
That it was a gradual learning process.
Right.
Some steps I had to go through or some stuff I had to do until I learned to trust. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We acknowledge the issue. You know what I'm saying? We come to believe that a power can restore us. We take some action.
Right.
Then we have faith. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that.
So sometimes it's a process, man. And we just, like I say, we just got to stay in the fold. See, God gave me AA. God gave me Narcotics Anonymous. Then Narcotics Anonymous gave me back to God. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I hear that.
It was all in the plan, man.
I hear that.
And so to keep what I have to constantly give it away, man. I have to share my experience. I have to help other addicts and alcoholics. That's part of the deal. He has placed purpose on my life. And the worst thing I could do is not serve that purpose. So, it's one day at a time, man, that I get this gift of recovery. It's one day at a time, you know, and it's through surrender that we gain freedom. I had to surrender to that thing, Pastor. You know, it's like, man, my recovery is the most important thing in my life. You know, my relationship with my God.
I hear that.
The most important thing in my life. You know, I had to come and see, man, that those people at that church that I was so afraid to talk around, they're human too.
Human.
You know what I'm saying?
Even more human.
That's right. They're human just like everybody else.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, to be forgiven, we got to learn to forgive.
That's right.
You know, so the thing says, therefore, if a man be a Christ, they say, what is that?
All things have passed away.
Old things pass away, and all things become new.
You know, that's right. That's right.
So, hey, man, you know, I'm just grateful, man. I'm thankful. Anytime I'm able to share or help, man, you know, I'm obligated to do so. It's part of the deal, man.
It's part of the deal.
It's part of the deal, Pastor.
Part of the deal.
So to keep what I have to give it away, man. You know, I'm truly, I understand today. I'm just as much a child of God as the next man.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly it.
You know,
exactly.
So I just thank the Lord for placing purpose on my life.
Placing purpose on my life.
Giving me another opportunity to be of service to Him, man. So that's what it's all about, man.
Well, listen, I definitely appreciate you sharing your story today, and I'm sure the viewers, the listeners are tremendously blessed by your story. The power to live, the gift of recovery. That's powerful. The gift of recovery. And so for those of you who are watching today, the power to live that Mr. Brother Rose has shared with us, that you can recover from whatever you're in. You can recover. That's why we gathered together today here in the Pastor Corner, to let you know that you can recover. God has given you power. He has never given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and of a sound mind. So when we leave the corner today, go back out into that world and recover, live. For God has granted you another opportunity. We'll see you next week at the same time at the Pastor's Corner.